Laura from Manchester Rocks here with Dave Evans at SOS Festival. So you played your set last night. How did it go for you?
Brilliant. Yeah, it was fantastic. I'm very lucky really to have the UK Badasses with me as my backing band, as I have for the whole of the England and Wales tour. And they're a fantastic band. I've worked with some of the best musicians in the world, and these boys stack up with anybody I've ever played with. They're brilliant.
Fantastic. So obviously you tour around the world with different forms of the Badasses.
Yes.
You've got the UK Badasses for the UK tour. How do you go about choosing who's going to be in your Badass band?
Well, I usually check them out on YouTube to make sure they've got the goods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also they enjoy playing classic rock.
Yeah.
You know, the classic rock players, and that they really love it. They've got a passion for it, and which most people do. Not many of us left actually doing classic rock. You know what I mean?
No, there's not.
So yeah, I check them out, and when I arrive in the country, when I have arrived in the countries, I just do a rehearsal. But they know what my music's all about. They've got my music. They love my music. They have a passion for it already. Yeah. So they just get into the groove with me, and I've got the UK Badasses, the Aussie Badasses, the American Badasses, etc.
Yeah.
And they love that too. So it's great.
So obviously your career has spanned a good few years now.
Yes.
What would you say has been the highlight of your career so far?
Well, gee, it changes all the time. I mean, when I was with ACDC, for instance, it was the first time I'd recorded. You know, the first time I'd done a film clip, the first time I'd heard myself on the radio and all that kind of stuff. So that was just so exciting, and you can't replace that. But I've done many like big concerts with other bands and stuff like that, and every time I do a new recording, it's exciting. I've just got a new album released called Revenge with Texas blues rock legend John Nitzinger. You know, it's just, and I recorded that in America with all Americans. First time I've done that. Different type of a genre of music. It's rock, but it's sort of a Texas rock, bit of Alice Cooper, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was so excited doing that album. Didn't know how it was going to be received. But I've got, Johnny and I have got 5 out of 5s and 1 10 out of 10 for it. So you can't get better than that. So that's exciting as well. I mean, and that's only just happened. So, and to keep touring, as I say, with the UK Badasses, I've just done Norway and Sweden. It was fantastic. And I've got new recordings coming up with my UK label, Rock Sector Records, before I go leave the country. And I've got another recording project started in the United States as well. So, I'm just lucky, I guess.
Sounds like you're really busy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, when you comes to the recording process, what's the most exciting part for you?
The most exciting part really is when you've finished it, to listen to it back and to see what's being created, you know. When you're creating it, you're sort of in a zone, you know. It's like when you're on stage performing, you're in a zone. It's an amazing situation. But afterwards, when you look at the finished product or hear it, that's exciting because it's like an out-of-body experience because I'm listening to it as if somebody else did it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're going like, wow, yeah, it's pretty good. You know? Yeah.
So obviously you get people that listen to your music and are excited by it. What excites you about other people's music? What sort of bands inspire you? What sort of artists?
I love music that are songs that got lyrics that mean something. That's important. If it's just a noise or somebody screeching or yelling or somebody that I can't understand the lyrics of, I just dismiss that completely. I don't even listen to it. The music's really important as well, but not to be repetitive.
Yeah.
If it's just repetitive drumming, just because he's got a big drum kit, he wants to play a load of the drum kit all the time, that's boring.
Yeah.
Also with musicians, for instance, like a guitarist, if they're a thrasher, you know, big deal. The guy's usually just playing scales.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's not music. You know, that's what you do when you practice. So at home, so that when you go and play music, you can play music. So when it's just scales or whatever, it's repetitive, boring, and so I need music with melody and power and all that kind of stuff, and lyrics that actually tell a story that you understand, that you can be passionate about, that touches you. You know what I mean? Whether it's all types. If it's a sad song or a heavy song or just a great rock song, it's got to excite you. The lyrics have got to do something for you.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people, as far as I'm concerned, they do the other kind of music because they can't write songs.
Yeah.
Like they have no clue how to write a song, so they just make up a noise and call it anything from progressive rock, which is a ridiculous name, to death metal or whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
It's like, boys, sit down and write a song.
So, I mean, myself growing up, I listened to sort of ACDC, Thin Lizzy, Bad Company, that sort of thing. What sort of music did you listen to growing up?
It's funny because my father is a singer. He's a beautiful tenor, and he was on stage when I was a kid, and I used to watch Dad singing, and we sang at home all the time. And I grew up with my father's music, which was quite diversified, from opera to the great opera singers, to sort of Western ballads, Marty Robbins and all the gunfighter ballads, and to the Platters and just all sorts of music. So I've had quite a little bit of rock and roll too, not too much. He wasn't too into the rock and roll, but so it's quite diversified, and of course the choirs and all that kind of stuff as well. Born in Wales before we emigrated to Australia when I was a little kid, so we love music and we love choirs and that stuff. So I grew up with all kinds of music, but I just sort of discovered rock really and pop music when I was a young teenager.
Yeah.
And the Beatles and Rolling Stones and the Kinks and the British sound, mostly. And but then when I got a bit older, it was like Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple and Free and that kind of stuff really influenced me. Sort of blues rock, so I've had quite a different, diverse training and appreciation, which I still do, of music in general.
So how long does it take for you to become comfortable in your own skin? Obviously there's a lot of bands, up-and-coming bands trying to find their identity in the music industry and that sort of thing. How long would you say that process took for yourself?
Not too long. My generation left home pretty young.
Okay.
There was a great revolution and a great gap between kids and their parents back in those days. So I was singing at 17 professionally, and I went through the process of doing the contemporary music on the top 40, that kind of stuff. And but by the time I was like about 20, I was living in Sydney, and I sort of got in with some blues players. I didn't know anything about blues, and they taught me the blues. They taught me how to sing blues and how to appreciate blues, and that helped me to find who I was, because with the blues you get just thrown. This is in A, or this is in G, and you're on your own, mate. So you learn to find your own voice that way, and find your own chops that way, as they say, and so that was really important for me. Any rock player or singer, they must know the blues, because rock came from blues. Okay, and so once I had my training and I was in a band called Knob, blues band, did all that stuff, and then I went back into sort of rock. And so by the time I went back into rock, I was comfortable with what I was doing, because I'd sort of discovered what I could do,
What about the new breed of artists that are around at the moment? Who excites you? Who would you go and see at a gig, for example? Who would you go and pay to see?
That's hard, because not many around that excite me. The greats from the 60s and the 70s and even the 80s. Most of them are not around anymore, and most of the young bands these days are either thrash metal or death metal, that kind of stuff, and which is completely boring to me. They all sound the same. You get 5 bands, they all sound the same. You got to sing. What's that? You don't need that. And you got 5 guys doing that. Could be the same band. And you got 5 thrash guitarists. Same guitarist, as far as I'm concerned. So they're completely 100% boring, and so I wouldn't go to see any of them. But there's really not many bands around doing traditional rock anymore. ACDC is still one, and why are they the biggest band in the world? Because they're doing that.
There's not many people doing it anymore.
So if my advice would be to other bands out there trying to make it, look at the bands that are the biggest bands in the world, right? And ask yourself, why are they the biggest bands in the world, and why do you like them too? And change their tune and start writing some traditional rock if they've got the talent. And I'm not trying to be smart ass about it. I mean it. When I first started, there wasn't very many record labels at all, right? And you had to be damn good to get a record contract, right? And there was a lot of competition, and so everybody was trying to be the best and to have a different sound too. Okay. These days, anybody can have a record. They can do it in their bedroom. And that's why there's so many bands got records out. They produce it themselves, put it on CD Baby or something like that. It really doesn't mean much as far as excellence is concerned. But unfortunately for the bands, most of the major record labels these days are ignoring rock. It is really hurting rock musicians. It's mostly like rap and hip hop and that kind of thing. So in one sense, I do understand why these bands are left to their own devices to record in their bedrooms or whatever, because the major labels aren't even signing these bands. So it's a double-edged sword. So I feel sorry for them. But by the same token, to say anybody can have a record out these days without any real yardstick of excellence.
So obviously that's something you feel quite passionately about, that maybe the rock bands aren't doing as well commercially as possibly they could be. Why do you think that is?
Oh, I live mostly in the United States these days, in Texas, and it's quite a complicated thing to speak about. Why the major labels are ignoring rock, but it's a matter of them making money and pushing the type of music that they are recording to a minority really who spend most of the money on recreation. Okay, so it's just a matter of money, and they're ignoring rock to a certain demographic, and that's all it is. It's not that people don't like classic rock anymore, but the major record labels think they can make more money, or they found out they can make more money, more profits, aiming at a different demographic of the music population.
So, obviously, like I say, that is something you're really passionate about. With regards to the future, what's next for you?
Well, I've got to record an EP here with my record label, Rock Sector Records, in the UK. They only just put that on me about a week and a half ago, before I left the United Kingdom. So that's great. I've got to write a couple of new songs very quickly, and hopefully they're going to be good. And I'll go back to Australia just for a bit of a break. I've just toured Australia, Norway and Sweden, England and Wales. I've also got another recording project in the United States. I've already recorded a couple of songs for that already, and they want me to finish that album. I don't know when I'll be able to do that. So there's quite a bit sort of going on.
Okay, so to wrap up, where can people find out more about you?
Well, they can go to my website, which is daveevansrocks.com, or check me out on Facebook. I've got the maximum of friends there at the moment, and have had for quite a long time. But I've got a page as well, so you can check that out as well. I do administer it myself. I'm one of the few that actually management, or people who are pretending to be the artist. I mean, there's so many Angus Youngs out there that are not really Angus Young at all. So I'm one of the very few that actually do administer my pages. I like to keep in touch with the fans, friends, and business colleagues on Facebook and that kind of thing. So they can check that out, or just go to YouTube, and there's plenty of my music out there on YouTube as well. So
Fantastic. Okay. Last question. I'd like you to sum up your sound in 3 words.
3 words. Okay. Badass hard rock.
Love it. Thanks very much, Dave.
Thanks.